My daughter-in-law left me at a train station as a joke, and I spent the coldest night of my life on a wooden bench, wondering if this was how my story would end. Her name was Scarlett. For 5 years I'd watched her move through my son's house like a ghost, polite but distant. I'd tried so hard to be the father she'd never had, offering advice about the children, suggestions for dinner, ways to make Rhett happier. I thought I was helping. I was wrong. That Tuesday morning she came to my door with a smile I'd never seen before. Sweet, calculated. She offered to drive me to see my old friend Winston, 3 hours away in Millbrook. We should get to know each other better, she said. I packed my overnight bag with trembling hands, chose Eleanor's cardigan, the blue one she'd knitted before the cancer took her. For 3 hours in that car, Scarlett asked about my war stories, laughed at my jokes, bought me coffee at a rest stop. I thought I'd finally gained a daughter. But she drove me to Millbrook Station instead of Winston's house, helped me out of the car with theatrical gentleness, handed me my bag, and said the words that still echo in this empty house. This is for every time you made me feel small in my own home. I watched her taillights disappear into the afternoon traffic, standing there with $37 in my wallet and nowhere to go. I am Atticus Brennan, 74 years old, widower, father to one son, who calls every Sunday but visits twice a year. I live alone in the house Eleanor and I bought in 1972. The mortgage is paid. The garden is overgrown. The rooms echo with 47 years of memories that no one else remembers. My days follow a pattern. Coffee at 6, news at 7, a walk to the corner store for bread and milk, dinner at 5:30 sharp. Eleanor always said routine was the backbone of a good life. I keep her routine, even though she's been gone 3 years now. The loneliness sits in my chest, like a stone. Heavy, constant. I've learned to carry it, without complaint. That Tuesday morning broke the pattern. A knock at my door at 9:15. I wasn't expecting anyone. The mailman had already come. The newspaper was tucked under my arm. Scarlett stood on my porch. My daughter-in-law, Rhett's wife, mother to my 2 grandchildren. She held her car keys in one hand, her purse in the other. She wore a blue dress I'd never seen before. Clean, pressed, like she was going somewhere important. She smiled, not the polite smile she gave me at Sunday dinners, not the tight smile she wore when I offered advice about the children. This smile was different, warm, real. "Good morning, Atticus." I stepped back, let her in. She'd never visited alone, never called me by my first name, always kept her distance like I was carrying some contagious disease. "Is everything all right? Is Rhett okay?" She laughed, light, musical. "Everything's fine. I was just thinking about what you said at dinner on Sunday, about Winston, about how you miss him." Winston Marsh. My oldest friend. We'd served together in Korea, survived 3 winters that should have killed us both. He'd moved to Millbrook 5 years ago to be closer to his daughter, 3 hours away, too far for an old man to drive alone. "I haven't seen him in 8 months, I said. "I know." She set her purse on the kitchen counter, made herself at home in a way she never had before. "Rhett's working late all week, big project. I thought maybe I could drive you to see Winston. We could talk, get to know each other better." The words hit me like sunlight through clouds. 5 years of polite distance, 5 years of careful conversations about weather and grocery prices, 5 years of watching her stiffen when I walked into a room. "You want to drive me to Millbrook?" "I do." I studied her face, searched for the catch, the hidden motive, found nothing but genuine warmth. "That's very kind of you." I should have offered before. "I've been thinking about what you said, about family, about how we should stick together. Family. The word tasted foreign in my mouth. Since Eleanor died, family had become Sunday dinners, where I sat at the corner of the table, making small talk with people who tolerated my presence out of duty. When would you like to go? Today. Now, if you're ready. My heart jumped, actually jumped, like a teenager asking a girl to dance. When was the last time someone had surprised me with kindness? When was the last time anyone had gone out of their way to make me happy? I'll pack a bag. I climbed the stairs to my bedroom, hands shaking, not from age, from hope. Dangerous, foolish hope that maybe things were changing. Maybe the wall between Scarlett and me was finally coming down. I packed my overnight bag with care. Eleanor's cardigan, the blue one she'd knitted the winter before the diagnosis. My good shoes, the leather ones I saved for church and special occasions. A small photo of Eleanor in a silver frame. She came with me everywhere now. Scarlett waited in the kitchen. She'd made coffee, 2 cups, mine in the mug Eleanor had painted at a pottery class 20 years ago, the one with the crooked handle and the faded roses. You remembered, I said. You always use that mug. Such a small thing, but it mattered. Someone had noticed. Someone had paid attention to the details of my life. We drove through town in her silver sedan. The radio played softly, classical music. She asked about my time in Korea, about Eleanor, about the early days of my marriage. I told her stories I hadn't shared in years. She listened, actually listened, asked questions that showed she cared about the answers. Eleanor sounds wonderful, she said. She was. 47 years. Not long enough. I'm sorry I never got to know her better. She would have loved you. She always said you were too good for Rhett. Scarlett laughed. She said that? She had strong opinions about people, usually right. We stopped at a rest area outside Millbrook. Scarlett bought coffee, real coffee from a machine that probably hadn't been cleaned in months. She handed me a cup and a packet of sugar. You take 1 sugar, no cream. Another small thing, another detail she'd noticed. How do you know that? I pay attention, Atticus, more than you think. We sat at a picnic table. The autumn air was crisp, clean. Scarlett wrapped her hands around her coffee cup and stared at the horizon. I owe you an apology, she said. For what? For keeping my distance. For being cold. I know you've tried to be kind. I know you want to help. I sometimes speak without thinking. Eleanor used to say I had opinions about everything. You do, but your heart's in the right place. My throat tightened. When was the last time someone had said something like that to me? When was the last time someone had seen past my clumsy attempts at connection to the loneliness underneath? Thank you, I whispered. For what? For today. For this. For giving an old man something to look forward to. She smiled, that same warm smile from my porch. We should have done this sooner. We finished our coffee in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that happens between people who understand each other. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Scarlett stood, gathered our empty cups. Ready to see Winston? I nodded, followed her back to the car, settled into the passenger seat with a lightness I hadn't felt since Eleanor's funeral. The GPS said 20 minutes to Winston's house, 20 minutes to see my oldest friend, 20 minutes in the company of someone who might actually become family. I was wrong about everything. The GPS said we'd arrived at our destination. But this wasn't Winston Street. This wasn't even a residential neighborhood. Millbrook train station. Gray concrete, cracked pavement. the smell of diesel and old coffee. I looked at Scarlett. She was staring straight ahead through the windshield. Her hands gripped the steering wheel. White knuckles, tight jaw. "This isn't Winston's house." "No." Her voice was different now. Cold, sharp, like glass breaking. "It's not." Something twisted in my stomach. A warning, a recognition that the woman sitting next to me wasn't the same woman who'd bought me coffee an hour ago. Did we take a wrong turn? She turned to face me. The warmth in her eyes was gone, replaced by something harder, something that had been waiting beneath the surface all along. "Get out." "I'm sorry?" "Get out of the car, Atticus." My hands started shaking, not from age, from fear, from the sudden understanding that I'd been played, that every kind word, every gentle gesture, every moment of connection had been a lie. "I don't understand." "Yes, you do." She reached across me and opened the passenger door. "You understand perfectly." The afternoon air hit my face, cold, bitter. I sat frozen in the seat, staring at this woman I thought I was beginning to know. "Scarlett, what's happening?" "This is what's happening." She got out of the car, walked around to my side, stood there with her arms crossed, waiting. "This is for every time you corrected me in front of my children, for every passive-aggressive comment about my cooking, for every time you made me feel like a stranger in my own home." The words hit me like physical blows, each one precise, calculated, stored up over 5 years of Sunday dinners and holiday gatherings. I was trying to help. You were trying to control. She reached into the car and grabbed my overnight bag, set it on the curb beside me. You were trying to turn my husband against me, my children against me, making me feel like I could never do anything right. I climbed out of the car slowly. My legs felt weak, unsteady, like the ground beneath me was shifting. "That wasn't my intention." "Your intention doesn't matter." She slammed the passenger door shut. "Your impact does. And your impact has been to make me miserable in my own family." I stood there holding my overnight bag, a 74-year-old man in a train station parking lot, abandoned, bewildered, trying to understand how kindness had turned to cruelty so quickly. "How do I get home?" "Figure it out." She walked back to the driver's side, paused with her hand on the door handle. "You're always so full of advice. Advise yourself." "Scarlett, please." "Please what?" "Please pretend that you haven't spent 5 years undermining me. Please pretend that you haven't made every family gathering about your opinions and your criticism." Her voice was rising. Other people in the parking lot were starting to stare. A young mother with a stroller, an elderly couple loading suitcases into their trunk, all of them watching this family drama unfold. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. My son barely visits. I was lonely." "And that gives you the right to tear down everyone around you?" "I never meant to tear anyone down." "You suggested I was feeding my children too much sugar. You told me I was spoiling them. You criticized the way I kept house. You second-guessed every decision I made as a mother." Each accusation was true. I could see that now. Every helpful suggestion had been a judgment. Every piece of advice had been a criticism wrapped in concern. "I'm sorry." Sorry doesn't undo 5 years of damage. She got into the car, started the engine. Sorry doesn't give me back my confidence. Sorry doesn't repair the relationship between me and my husband because you made him think I couldn't handle our family. The car was running. She was going to leave. "Actually, leave me here." "Don't do this." "I'm not doing anything." You did this. Every Sunday dinner, every holiday, every time you opened your mouth to tell me how I should be living my life." I walked to the driver's side window. She rolled it down halfway. "I have $37. The last train to my town left an hour ago." "Then you'll have to spend the night, like I've spent the last 5 years feeling like an outsider in my own family. I'm an old man, and I'm a grown woman who's been treated like a child by you for half a decade." She put the car in reverse. I stepped back, watched her check her mirrors, adjust her seat, taking her time, making sure I understood that this wasn't an impulse. This was planned, deliberate. "Scarlett." She looked at me through the window. For just a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Doubt, regret. The ghost of the woman who'd made me coffee in Eleanor's mug. Then it was gone. "This is where you belong, Atticus. Alone." She drove away. I stood in the parking lot watching her taillights disappear into the late afternoon traffic, my overnight bag at my feet, Eleanor's cardigan folded neatly on top. The train station was nearly empty. A few commuters checking their phones. A janitor mopping the floor near the ticket counter. The smell of disinfectant and disappointment. I walked to the information board. The next train to my town was at 6:30 tomorrow morning, 15 hours from now. $37 wouldn't buy me a hotel room. Wouldn't buy me dinner and breakfast and a taxi home. I found a bench near the platform, sat down heavily, set my bag beside me, looked around at the place where I would spend the night. This was my punishment. Not just for the criticism, not just for the unwanted advice, for the deeper sin of loneliness, for trying to fill the hole Eleanor left by inserting myself into other people's lives. I thought about the drive here, Scarlett's questions about Korea, about Eleanor, about the early days of my marriage. She'd listened so carefully, asked such thoughtful questions, made me feel seen, heard, valued. All of it had been performance, research, gathering ammunition for this moment. The cruelest part wasn't being abandoned. The cruelest part was realizing that the connection I'd felt was entirely one-sided. That while I was opening my heart, she was planning my destruction. I pulled Eleanor's cardigan from my bag, held it against my chest, breathed in the faint scent of her perfume that still lingered in the wool. "I'm sorry," I whispered to her memory. "I'm sorry I couldn't learn to be alone gracefully. I'm sorry I tried to replace you with people who never asked to be replaced." The sun was setting. The train station was getting colder. Other passengers were arriving for evening departures, all of them with somewhere to go, someone waiting for them. I was exactly where Scarlett said I belonged. Alone. But not by choice this time. By consequence. The weight of that realization settled on my shoulders like snow. Heavy, cold, permanent. I'd spent 3 years grieving Eleanor. Now I had to grieve the family I thought I was building, the daughter I thought I was gaining, the belonging I thought I'd found. Some betrayals happen in an instant. Others unfold over hours as you sit on a train station bench, understanding exactly how much you've lost and exactly how much you deserved to lose it. The bench was harder than church pews, colder than February mornings. I sat there as the sun disappeared behind the station building, watching other people's lives unfold around me. A young couple argued near the ticket counter. She wanted to take the later train. He wanted to leave now. They compromised, kissed, walked away hand in hand. Even their conflict had resolution. An elderly woman struggled with her suitcase, heavy, wheeled, falling over every few steps. I started to get up to help her, stop myself. Maybe my help wasn't wanted. Maybe my help had never been wanted. The station slowly emptied. Evening commuters caught their trains home, to families, to dinner tables, to people who were glad to see them. I remained on the bench, holding Eleanor's cardigan, counting my money. $37.43. Not enough for a hotel room, not enough for a taxi home in the morning, enough for coffee and a sandwich. Maybe. The janitor approached around 8 o'clock. Hispanic man, 50s, kind eyes. He pushed a cart full of cleaning supplies. "You okay, sir?" "Just waiting for the morning train." He nodded. Didn't ask why I was spending the night in a train station. Didn't make me feel like a vagrant. Just accepted my situation without judgment. "Coffee machine's broken," he said. "But I got a thermos. You want some?" "That's very kind." He poured steaming coffee into a paper cup, handed it to me carefully. The warmth spread through my fingers, through my chest. The first genuine kindness I'd received since Scarlett's performance that morning. "Thank you." "No problem. I'll be here all night if you need anything." He continued his work, mopping floors, emptying trash cans, wiping down benches, creating order from the chaos of 1,000 daily departures and arrivals. I sipped the coffee. Strong, black, perfect, better than anything I'd made for myself in 3 years of solitary breakfasts. The station grew quiet. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Security cameras watched empty platforms. The digital departure board cycled through tomorrow's schedule. My train was listed, 6:30 a.m., Platform 3. I thought about Scarlett's words, every criticism she'd leveled at me, every wound she'd opened. They were all true. I could see that now in the harsh light of abandonment. The way I'd corrected her pronunciation at last Christmas dinner. The suggestion about the children's bedtime routines. The comment about her housekeeping when I'd visited in July. All of it wrapped in concern. All of it poisoned with judgment. Eleanor had tried to warn me. The last coherent conversation we'd had before the morphine took her clarity. She'd gripped my hand with surprising strength. "Don't try to fix everyone after I'm gone," she'd whispered. "Don't try to fill the hole I'm leaving by digging holes in other people." I'd kissed her forehead, promised to remember, then spent 3 years doing exactly what she'd warned me against. The irony was crushing. In trying to become necessary to my family, I'd made myself unwanted. In trying to help, I'd hurt. In trying to belong, I'd pushed everyone away. A security guard made his rounds at midnight. Older man, uniform too tight. Flashlight beam sweeping across empty seats. "You catching the morning train?" "Yes, sir." "Long wait?" "Yes, sir." He studied me for a moment, decided I wasn't a threat, moved on. I was grateful for his discretion, for not making me explain why a grown man was spending the night in a public building. 3 o'clock brought the longest hour of my life. The station was completely empty except for me and the janitor. The coffee was gone. The cold was seeping through Eleanor's cardigan into my bones. I closed my eyes, tried to sleep. But every position on the bench was uncomfortable. Every sound echoed in the empty space. Every thought led back to the same painful realization. I was alone because I'd driven away the people who'd tried to love me. Rhett called me every Sunday, dutiful, distant. We talked about weather and baseball and his job. Safe topics. Nothing that mattered. Nothing that might lead to criticism or unwanted advice. The grandchildren hugged me at family gatherings. Polite hugs, brief hugs, the kind children give to relatives they don't really know. I'd tried to get closer to them, suggested activities, offered to help with homework, volunteered to babysit. All of it rejected, gently, consistently. Now I understood why. I wasn't trying to build relationships. I was trying to manage them, control them, shape them into something that would fill the emptiness Eleanor left behind. The janitor returned around 4 o'clock, offered me another cup of coffee, sat down on the bench beside me. Rough night? Rough few years. He nodded, understood without explanation. I've been working nights for 20 years. You see a lot of people at their worst in places like this. People who miss their connections. People who got left behind. Which one am I? Both, I think. We sat in comfortable silence. 2 men who understood disappointment, who'd learned to carry their mistakes without complaint. You got family? He asked. I thought I did. Family's complicated. I got 3 kids. Haven't spoken to 2 of them in 5 years. My fault mostly. I was too hard on them growing up. Wanted them to be better than me. Pushed too hard. Do you regret it? Every day. But regret don't fix nothing. Just teaches you how to do better next time. What if there isn't a next time? There's always a next time. Long as you're breathing, there's always a chance to do better. He finished his coffee, stood up, patted my shoulder gently. Your train's in a couple hours. You should try to get some rest. Thank you. For the coffee. For the company. We all need somebody to sit with us in the dark sometimes. He walked away, resumed his work, left me alone with his wisdom and my regrets. Dawn came slowly, gray light filtering through dirty windows. The station began to fill with early commuters, people with purpose, places to be, people waiting for them. I stood up, stretched muscles that had stiffened during the night, folded Eleanor's cardigan carefully, placed it in my overnight bag. The departure board showed my train. On time. Platform 3. 30 minutes until boarding. I walked to the men's room, splashed cold water on my face, looked at myself in the cracked mirror. 74 years old, stubble, tired eyes. A man who'd learned hard lessons in the hardest way possible, but alive, still breathing, still capable of doing better. The janitor was right. As long as I was breathing, there was always a chance to do better. I bought a newspaper from a vending machine, sat back down on the bench, waited for my train, waited for my chance to go home and figure out how to be alone without being lonely, how to be helpful without being controlling, how to love without demanding love in return. The hardest lessons always came with the highest price, but they were the only ones worth learning. At 6:15, I stood on platform 3. My train was delayed. 20 minutes, then 40. The departure board flickered with apologies and revised schedules. I sat back down on another bench, watched the sun climb higher, counted my remaining money. $23 after buying the newspaper. Not enough for a taxi home from the station in my town. Not enough for much of anything. The train finally arrived at 7:30. Half empty. I found a seat by the window, watched Millbrook disappear behind me. Miles of farmland, small towns, places where people belonged. We made 3 stops, each one farther from my humiliation. Closer to home, closer to the empty house where I'd have to figure out how to live with what I'd learned about myself. The conductor was a young woman, 20s, friendly smile. She checked my ticket without judgment. Didn't ask why an old man was traveling alone with an overnight bag and tired eyes. First stop is your destination, she said. We'll be there in 40 minutes. I nodded, closed my eyes, tried to prepare for the walk home. 3 miles from the station to my house, uphill, with $37 in my pocket and nowhere to call for help. The train pulled into my station at 9:15. I gathered my bag, stepped onto the platform, breathed familiar air, Looked around at the town I'd lived in for 50 years. The parking lot was nearly empty. A few cars, a delivery truck, no taxis, no buses. Just me and my pride and a long walk ahead. I started walking. The morning was getting warm. Eleanor's cardigan felt heavy in my bag. My good shoes weren't made for hiking, but I had nowhere else to go, no one else to call. After 20 minutes, a truck pulled up beside me. Big rig, 18-wheeler, air brakes hissing. The driver's window rolled down. "You need a ride?" A woman, 40s, weathered face, kind eyes, trucker's cap pulled low over graying hair. "I don't want to trouble you." "No trouble. Heading into town anyway." I looked at the cab. High step, hard climb for a 74-year-old man. But my feet were already blistering. My back was aching. My pride was already broken. "That's very kind." She leaned across and opened the passenger door. I climbed up carefully, settled into the seat. She handed me a thermos without asking. "Coffee's fresh. You look like you could use some." The coffee was perfect, strong, hot. The second act of unexpected kindness in 12 hours. From strangers who owed me nothing. "I'm May," she said. "Atticus." "Long night, Atticus?" "The longest?" She didn't ask for details, just drove through town while I sipped her coffee and wondered how strangers could be kinder than family. "Where am I dropping you?" "Oak Street. If that's not too far." "Oak Street's fine. I know Oak Street." We drove in comfortable silence. May handled the big truck with easy confidence. Navigated narrow streets that seemed too small for her rig. Pulled up in front of my house without asking for the address. "This one? How did you know?" "Old man walking alone at dawn. Only one reason for that. Someone left you somewhere you didn't want to be." I looked at her. Really looked. Saw wisdom in her tired eyes. Understanding in her weathered face. "You've been there?" "Different story. Same feeling." She reached into her pocket, pulled out 2 20s, pressed them into my palm. "I can't take this." "Sure you can. My dad used to say kindness was like water. It flows downhill. Someone was kind to me once when I needed it. Now I'm being kind to you. I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me. Just pass it on when you get the chance." I climbed down from the cab, stood on the sidewalk holding my bag and her unexpected gift. She leaned out the window. "Whatever happened to you, Atticus, it wasn't the end of your story, just the end of a chapter." She drove away. I stood there watching her truck disappear around the corner. A stranger who'd shown me more compassion in 20 minutes than I'd received from my own family in 3 years. I walked to my front door, turned the key, stepped into the house Eleanor and I had shared for 47 years. The silence was different now. Not empty, just quiet, waiting. I made coffee in Eleanor's favorite pot. Sat at the kitchen table where we'd eaten thousands of meals. Looked out the window at the garden she'd planted. Overgrown now, neglected, but still growing. The phone rang at 10:30. Rhett's voice, frantic. "Dad, where were you yesterday? I called 3 times." "I took a little trip." "A trip? Where?" "To see Winston, in Millbrook." "Scarlett said she offered to drive you. Did you go together?" I closed my eyes, heard the fear in my son's voice, the love underneath the worry, the genuine concern of a child for his father. "We went together." "How was it? How's Winston?" "Winston's fine. We had a good visit." I couldn't tell him the truth, couldn't destroy his marriage with my pain, couldn't make him choose between his father and his wife. I'm glad you went. I know you've been wanting to see him. Yes, I'm glad too. Are you okay? You sound tired. Just a long day, I'm fine. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. I hung up the phone, sat in the quiet kitchen, thought about May's words, about kindness flowing downhill, about chapters ending and beginning. Sunday came, family dinner. I arrived on time, brought flowers from Eleanor's garden, sat in my usual chair, made small talk about weather and baseball. Scarlett was pale, quiet. She watched me carefully, waited for the confrontation that never came, the accusation that never arrived. I asked about the children's school, complimented the roast, helped clear the table, behaved like nothing had happened, like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I placed a small wrapped package beside Scarlett's plate, a book of poetry, poems about forgiveness, about second chances, about the grace that comes from understanding our own failures. She opened it carefully, read the inscription I'd written on the title page. For Scarlett, thank you for teaching me something I needed to learn. Love, Atticus. She looked up at me, eyes wide, confused, searching for the trap, the hidden anger, the delayed revenge, found nothing but acceptance, nothing but the quiet dignity of a man who'd learned hard lessons and chosen to be grateful for them. Thank you, she whispered. I nodded, smiled, helped myself to more coffee. 3 months later, she started visiting on her own, bringing the children. Real visits, honest conversations, the kind of relationship that grows slowly from mutual respect instead of manufactured affection. I never told her about May, never told her about the kindness of strangers, never told her how her cruelty had led me to grace. Some betrayals teach us who we really are. Some abandonments lead us exactly where we need to be. I learned I was stronger than I knew, kinder than I'd been, more capable of love than I'd imagined. The train ticket sits in my desk drawer, a reminder of the night I spent alone and discovered I was never really alone at all. Kindness flows downhill, from May to me, from me to whoever needs it next. The story continues, the chapter changes, the love remains.